the Everything But Politics podcast.
All right, away we go. Everything But Politics, episode 115. Alex Kowtun, welcome to the show, my man. It's good to be with you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's a pleasure.
No doubt about it. So, Evan and I, we find ourselves as people interested in engineering and aviation in that world that you have found yourself in for the last few decades. So I would love if you could share with us and our audience about how you found yourself in the world of aviation, flying fighter jets and really doing all this badass shit.
Sure. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I see you have a
Yep.
Buffalo shirt on. Yep.
Yes, sir.
And a middle class upbringing. But I'd always look up into the sky as a kid and see the planes flying over. I wanted to be a pilot someday. I wanted to fly. So that was always in my head, but I never had the means to take flight lessons or to make that a reality in my life. But it was something I wanted to make happen. So my senior year of high school, I went to go see an Air Force recruiter. And I told them that I have all these big goals and I'd love to be a fighter jet pilot. And the recruiter said, "Alex, it's not for you." So I said, "Wow, okay." And he said that I'm just too self-motivated and independent, and the structure of the Air Force would be a real challenge for me. So I took his word for it and I didn't do it. And it quickly became one of the biggest regrets of my life. So I said that once I do have the means, I'll get my private pilot license. I'll learn how to fly. I'll do it as a hobby. Then hopefully someday in the future, own a fighter jet on my own is my ultimate goal.
Well, if you're for people kids especially that love planes and fighter jets in that world, I would imagine the only real way to get into that is by joining the Air Force, right? How else would you find yourself in that
Absolutely.
world, right?
It really is the only path. And in Buffalo, I had a business right after college with a lot of employees, over 100 employees. So I could not leave and go to the Air Force, even though at some point I realized, hey, I could join the reserves. I could do this part-time. The recruiter never told me that. And it's something I should have done, and I did not do. Then when the economy crashed in 2008, I lost that business. I said, you know what? I'm going back into the Air Force. I'm going to do this now. And I was too old to be a fighter jet pilot at that point. So I did not do it.
And Alex, what was that original business where you had 100 employees?
It was call centers,
Were
which
they
are real
based?
big in Buffalo.
Were your staff based in the United States or were they overseas?
They were here. They were all in Buffalo, downtown Buffalo.
Wow.
And what were they calling about? What were they selling?
We were doing debt collections.
Okay, so you're dealing with a whole cast of characters with debt collection.
Oh boy, it was not an exciting business to be in.
But prior to 2008, were things going well and then the crash just kind of shifted everything in a completely different direction, or what happened?
Yeah, the real estate market crashed, and it created such horrible economic conditions that people just didn't have any money to pay on their bad debts. So
Wow.
we went from doing well to losing a massive amount of money monthly. So we shut it down.
Well,
But it was it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me because I got back on my feet over the next year, then moved down to South Florida because I didn't have anything holding me back.
Nice.
and Alex, after you did go to the Air Force and learn how to fly planes, how did you get the idea of like, okay, how do I make this a business and how do I make money with doing what I love?
Well, the Air Force wouldn't take me, so I
Okay.
moved down to Florida and kept my entrepreneurial spirit going and started other businesses. Got into a position where I could learn how to fly on my own as a hobby. So I did that, and it became my ultimate passion.
That's a great passion too,
Yeah.
right? Like,
How long does it take to fly a plane? Sorry, Merrick. Like to learn.
So
I mean,
it's based on how committed you are
yeah.
and how often you can take lessons, or if you just want to go to school and do it full time. And I didn't have the time or the means to do it full time. So I did it part time, and it took me about a year
That's not bad.
what
to
kind
get
of
my private pilot's license.
But Joe, I see what you fly, right? You fly some of these bad, like Top Gun type shit, like no joke.
Yes.
And then I see, we flew into town 2 nights ago on Southwest. What is different between flying like a 737 like that opposed to flying one of these fighter jets? I would imagine what you're flying is much more complex.
Not necessarily more complex, but totally different. It's like driving an RV versus a Lamborghini.
That's
That's
So
good. That's good
yeah.
comp.
they both serve a great purpose. They're both equally difficult to operate. The RV's tougher to get around turns, and you have to really watch what's around you more. Whereas the fighter jet, there's high G forces, high speeds. That's the real difference.
Wow.
Well, and how I feel like there's got to be a ton of fear when you're going to get into a plane. Like, how do you overcome that? Have there ever been close calls where, like, do you have a parachute on the plane? What are some protocols that people should know if you're flying by yourself?
Well, I have more fear of being in an Uber. I mean, there's statistically a much higher probability of dying in an Uber than an airplane. And
That's interesting.
Right.
more people die from flat screen TVs falling off the wall and hitting them in the head per year than in airplanes.
Where do
So,
is that?
so
That's a
that's
fact.
how
That's a statistic.
that is. So that's how
Wow.
safe flying is.
Well, okay. That's something new. I never heard that
Yeah.
before. Especially like right 2025 is almost here. And I went to college in Arizona and flew from Chicago to Tucson to get to school. I felt that from my freshman year to my senior year, the flight had become much quicker. In the last 5 to 10 years, how much has airfare and like the quality and technology on these airplanes advanced?
Technology has advanced. The performance is exactly the same.
So advanced in what regard? Like they are faster, or what do you
Nope.
mean by that?
Nope. So the avionics now look like iPads instead of old school gauges in a car.
Mm.
So you have touch screens, you have bright maps instead of just analog gauges. And the only real advancement has been efficiency because the airlines are constantly trying to make more money. So the more efficiency, the better. But there's no real increases in speed.
So it's more so the internal parts of the airplane have become more compatible or more efficient for the consumer or the person going from point A to point B.
Absolutely. And the experience has gotten worse. The flight attendants have terrible attitudes. The lines
Yeah.
are longer. People are dressed worse. So it's really gone
Huh.
downhill. There's no increase in performance, a worse experience, and it's more like a bus and public transportation.
Evan just got yelled at on our Southwest flight
No, it
the other
wasn't
night.
even yelled at. I had my backpack. It was only 60% full, and the backpack was just in the middle seat. And the flight attendant couldn't have been more rude. She comes up and she just goes, "Move that backpack underneath." It's like, how about a please? Like
Yeah,
we were laughing so hard. Like, what the hell just happened? It's
yeah.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
the airlines have really failed with HR, training,
Mm,
management, and customer experience. They've just completely lost sight of any importance to that. And
mm.
it's so valuable. It's amazing that one airline hasn't tried to grab that to me.
I agree with that. But Alex, I want to jump back to 2009, 2010 after the crash. What did you do as an entrepreneur to kind of take the next step in not only your career, but your life?
Sure. So I started a new business by mistake, a liquor
Huh.
company.
Okay, yes, I've seen this.
And the two companies, or the two industries you should never get into are aviation or liquor. They're the hardest. Any sexy business is much more difficult than a non-sexy business. And
Understood.
what happened was I was entertaining people at my condo, and we'd mix up our red Solo cups. So I came up with the idea to put little plastic red monkeys on every person's Solo cup. They're a different color. You get a red one. I get a green one. That's how we know whose drinks are whose. We take these little monkeys to the bars and have them on our drinks. And it was a conversation starter. People would say, "What is that? Can I have one? What's it mean?" And it really didn't have much meaning. I just gave them out. People liked them because it started conversation. And
Interesting.
people would send me pictures as they traveled the world with these silly little plastic monkeys. I got sick of getting the pictures. So I started an Instagram account. It was a monkey, West Palm Beach's paradise, monkey in paradise Instagram. It
That's
grew to
good.
10,000 followers, and there was no business concept. It was just something for fun that people were sending me cool pictures from.
And this is before people understood how algorithms work or social media content works
There
or
were no
reels,
reels. There
any of
weren't
that
even
stuff.
reels
This is
yet.
just organic content with organic followers.
Absolutely.
That's
So
awesome.
I was out with a couple of friends of mine, and we're at a bar, and I look at how boring all the liquor brands are. I said,
Mhm.
look at this Monkey in Paradise Instagram. It's an exciting marketing platform that's organic. I said, we'll make Monkey in Paradise vodka. So we did that. And we put our life savings into the proof of concept in West Palm. We proved it worked. The social media was fun, very lifestyle based, incorporated the airplanes, exotic cars, travel, and just that little monkey everywhere. So it was a winning concept. And the company went from my condo that I'm filming from right now to a national brand with over 10,000 points of distribution.
Too good.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
And then that was leveraged into aviation because
Yep.
people that own beautiful aircraft love the story, the self-made middle class guys that took something that was pretty much nothing and created something big. So I was really able to network in aviation and meet people that had cool planes. I got to fly them and create all these new friends. And I met people that literally owned fighter jets privately. My
That's so
top
cool.
goal.
So cool.
Now, Alex, I'm sure there are a lot of regulations and rules being in the alcohol industry. What are like some like how do you even go about make if I wanted to make my own vodka, like who do I need to talk to? You got to find a distributor, make sure everything's right, passing whatever code. How difficult was that?
Very difficult.
Yeah, I
And
can imagine.
we did not want to be a distiller.
Hmm.
So we went around to different distilleries that were already making a product because a lot of these liquor brands are just selling something that's private labeled. And there could be 20 or 30 other liquor brands using the same liquid. So it's a branding play.
Yeah.
And we found what was the best distillery, what we thought was the best private label product. We said, make it better and we'll buy the formula. So distill it more, do what you need to do, present the best product you can make and keep it at X price point. So we did that. We bought the formula. And it was very cheap to buy the formula, about $2,500. And then we produced our first batch.
Awesome. So, but I'm curious, as you know, going back to the entrepreneur, Alex, this is your second business, post depression, whatever. What did you know about business at the time that you didn't know the first time around that ended up being really beneficial?
I learned social media. That
Uh,
was the key. So I learned social media by mistake through Monkey in Paradise. At that point, all my social media platforms were private. So I said, for this to work, I need to go public and be a face of the company and become a personal brand. So I did that alongside and built my personal social media through lifestyle, through the flying, through people's cars. I had the opportunity to race on the track, through being out on boats, through travel. So I built my own lifestyle brand alongside. And I realized how important that was and how you can leverage that.
that's so cool.
Well, Alex, we've had some guests and even some friends who talk and they're open about being scared and nervous to post on social media. When you first started that, and I could say I was probably a little nervous at first as well, was that something that was in the back of your head?
Not really, but it was more of an annoyance. I was going to lose my privacy,
Yeah.
that this was becoming a brand. I had to be careful and make sure I'm not putting something up that's going to alienate half the people that are following me. So it became more of a job than something I enjoyed that was for family and friends.
Well, so we're at the point where, God, we're over 2 years now with our show and doing this. What are some things that you would advise to us between differentiating, building a brand versus building a business?
So you guys are the brand, the podcast is the business, and the brand's more important. Look how competitive podcasting is.
Hmm.
I mean, very low barriers of entry. So almost anybody can easily start a podcast. So I think your personal brands are extremely important in this. And then secondly, consistency. Most people don't have the commitment to do what it takes to be successful with a podcast. So the fact that you guys told me you release every Monday, that discipline, that commitment, that's what it's going to take.
So, okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. So after the vodka, at what point what did you do next? Because I don't think you're involved with the Monkey Vodka anymore, correct?
Yeah, so we exited that small private equity group about a year, 2 years ago.
Okay.
And
And
then after that, it became a 1 year focus on health, my personal health,
like for
because
your personal life, not business, just you getting better.
personally, self-development,
Nice.
because it's a really hard lifestyle to be in the liquor industry. There's different
Yeah.
hotel rooms, different cities every day. Every place you want to go, people just want to party, hang out late. So it was a heck of a lifestyle. And I realized what's most important is our health, to live a long life, a strong life. And I saw my father getting older and starting to slow down and slip. I said, you know what? I don't ever want to get weaker or slow down. So it's time to do whatever it takes for that. So I spent a year, went from 25% body fat to 5%,
Wow, that's amazing.
quarterly blood tests, checking vitamin levels, and really got serious about that and got to the pinnacle of health. Because I knew for whatever comes next, if you have that health, you have that base. You're going to have more energy. You're going to think clearly.
I totally agree. And this is post-COVID, right? This is like a year or two ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I saw
This
those
was
transformation photos. They were incredible.
this was 2 years ago, going on December 14th.
Now,
Very, very cool.
for
Very
someone
nice.
who wants to make that change in their life, people make all their New Year's resolutions. What was like your routine when you first started?
So routine was to start off with a blood test to see where I was deficient.
Okay.
Get on those vitamins. I knew that I wanted some quick results. So for the first year, intermittent fasting. So no eating until noon, then all eating done by 8 p.m.
Yep.
I cut out sugar, carbs, and pasta 80% of the time. So never perfectly,
Yeah, of
but
course.
something that was manageable and sustainable. And I'm still very social, go out a lot, so live a pretty crazy lifestyle. And I was able to maintain that with the intermittent fasting, the diet, and the gym 4 to 5 days a week.
That's solid. And being in West Palm, getting a lot of that vitamin D too, right? I imagine you're outdoors a lot.
Every morning. So I start every morning with a walk in the sun.
Do you get up rather early?
Not really, 6:30, 7.
Pretty early for most
early,
people.
earlier than
Yeah.
most, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt.
So my me time is 7 until 10. So
And
that's
is me
that.
time fit like personal active, or could that be you reading or on a computer? What does me time mean for you?
Me time means some sort of movement, whether it's walking, working out, or it's something that just benefits myself. So I don't schedule calls until 10,
Okay. And what time do you typically go till?
5 or 6.
Okay. So yeah, that's pretty solid. I'm sure after, building those two businesses, you kind of you kind of know how to manage your time extremely effectively at this point in your life,
Yeah, I think so. I do my best.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
so Alex, now that you don't have to focus as much on the monkey alcohol, I know you have the other vodka company that you started. What else are you doing now currently?
So as soon as I finished college, I actually got into the investment world for a brief time.
Okay.
So I got my Series 7 and all my securities licenses. Then
Nice.
quickly upon getting those, I realized that you have to pound the phones and call people that have money. I was 20 years old. I don't know anybody that has money. So it was a really rude awakening. So I really understood the financial markets, things like that. But at 20 years old, I just didn't see the path and did not want to move forward with that. So it's been a full circle since, and I actually signed on with a high end wealth management investment advisory firm, and I'm getting back into that world at a very high end level.
With
That's
okay,
amazing.
so now you said something I'm very curious about. At 20 years old, in that early 20 stage, even your entire 20s, how valuable was that in leveraging your sales experience?
I mean, so important. That's where I built
Yeah.
contacts, credibility, knowledge.
Do you stress that to young people you speak with that you got to learn sales?
Of course. And most importantly, you have to hang around with other people that are good at sales, that are driven, that are entrepreneurial.
And,
Yeah.
what's the disparity between selling something you don't believe in and someone that's just not a good salesman, right? They're probably very similar in my opinion.
They are. If you don't believe in it, there's no point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I do a lot of social media brand collaborations
Yep.
where I serve it as a brand ambassador, and I won't work with something that I wouldn't buy.
That's
I
So what
really,
are
I really won't.
and what are some of the brands that you're partners with?
So the shirt I'm wearing, it's called A Noir Clothing.
That's a
It's
cool
one of my
shirt.
favorite. It's one of my favorite clothing brands out there. So we work together. I believe in them. I promote them. This watch company, for instance,
I've
it's
seen you
called,
post
Oh, I
that
like that.
too.
yeah, Adderall watches. Some of my favorite watches in the world. If you believe in it, it's genuine.
Is that like
Totally.
a dress shirt? What is that?
It is, yeah.
I like
Long
that. It
sleeve?
looks like dry fit, no?
It's like a stretchy jacket.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that material. What's that brand called?
It's called A Noir. AUNOIR.
Right on. I'll have to
Cool.
check
Yeah,
that out.
we'll put that in the description.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, also go with the vodka in sales. Um, when when you sold Monkey in Paradise, were people in that business, will you get a Tito's or Kettle One that buys a product like that just to keep it off the shelf? How does that, is that a
That
thing?
does happen. Yeah, that's absolutely a thing. Sometimes they'll buy a competitor and just get rid of them.
And if for the person who created that brand, are most of them okay with that as long as they get the check, or absolutely 0% chance?
They could be okay with it.
Yeah.
Depends on the number. And it's such a hard business. I mean, when you exit, you're happy to be done.
Now,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the full send brand Happy Dad? They're doing the Nelk Boys with getting into the seltzer industry there.
I love the product. I've had it. I think it's awesome.
It is good.
So what I like about it is it's light and not chemically.
What
And
do you
there's
mean by
no
chemically? Like
bubbles.
what are some seltzers or even beers that are very chemically?
White Claw, I mean, it tastes like chemical.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
And
I've
like
never really had a White Claw.
I I like the Happy Dads better. I don't love the sparkle. I don't like sparkling water. I don't love that fizz. That's not really for me. So, but
Got it.
you with you being in the world of social media for over a decade, what they've done with intersecting their personal brand into this product must be like that's kind of stuff you teach, right? That's 101 like examples, teach that in classrooms, how they've been able to intersect their brands.
Yes, so that's important. But I think what's even more important is storytelling. I sold every location on storytelling based on telling that story about the little plastic monkey and how it developed from nothing into something special. And that the story sold.
That's a good point
Well,
too,
yeah, the
right? Because
people love
people
the
love
story
that.
for
They love the
sure.
homey, the
People love a
personalized touch.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, no
Now,
So
doubt.
personal brand important, but if you can connect that with a story, that's a formula for success.
so is there a
That's
brand?
I feel like
Sorry,
that's
Mary.
something a lot of people don't stress is the storytelling, like you just said. People stress like the social media, of course, you kind of need to, but the storytelling that makes sense, right? Just from a human perspective, that hits
For
home.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with some products, there's not a story. So I mean, it really depends on kind of what the product is.
So is there a brand that comes to mind that you really enjoy the story of that brand and their product?
I well, maybe not a story, but I think that Red Bull is the best marketing in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's what they do with their stunts and the whole YouTube, their content's really like people jumping out of planes and shit. It's next level. It's
Yeah, I've been
incredible.
fortunate. I've been fortunate enough to fly with them in their
Really?
helicopter, doing aerobatics. Yeah,
Wow.
When did
Just
Red Bull start?
that I don't know.
I'll do a quick Google.
Long
they
time ago, I feel like
American company?
1987.
they're not
Founded in
based out of America.
Austria.
Austria,
Oh,
Austria.
yeah.
yeah, I would
1987 it was founded and it was launched in 19 excuse me 1984 it was founded 1987 it was launched.
That's
But
too cool.
what they've done with lifestyle is just so cool.
Well, and that
Nice.
is very similar to kind of the lifestyle you do live, not try to live.
On a much smaller
Yeah.
scale.
Have you ever jumped out of a plane or a helicopter?
I've never jumped out. I don't like the idea of strapping onto another man or woman. If your first jumps, you have to
Yeah, I know what
strap
you're
on
talking
somebody.
about.
I want to be in control.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So Alex, earlier I had brought up, Southwest like 737, and then where you fly like these fighter jets. Where does in that like sphere, where do like the private charters like NetJets and Wheels Up and Marquis Jet, where do they kind of fall in that whole aviation dynamic, if you will?
So they're for the super rich. If you want to fly from Florida to New York, I mean, you're looking at $25,000 for one way.
But wouldn't the super rich they wouldn't charter, they would just own typically.
Well, I mean, $50,000 to go from Florida to New York, you have to have some pretty serious means
I would agree.
when you can do it for 400 on Southwest.
And what does a private jet cost to just own one?
There's a massive range.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So a new jet can be from 4 million to 80 million.
And then you got
And,
to fuel it, you need a pilot.
yeah,
Yeah.
believe it or not, the fuel's not even the biggest cost. It's the maintenance, it's the staffing.
God, what a different world, a world that we don't know about right now. But it is
Yeah,
crazy, especially in South Florida. You've probably seen it all, right? And there's West Palm.
absolutely.
You get some of the biggest players in the entire world right in your backyard.
It's crazy. I mean, you never know who you're going to see when.
And you said you're pretty extroverted, right? You're out in West Palm meeting people. Um, Tell us about the value in that, right? Your networking experience being in South Florida.
If I wasn't out networking, I would not be sitting here right now. It's all about who you know, making the right friends, the right connections. I was literally at a rooftop bar last week, and the president of Argentina walks by. President
Javier
Milei.
Millet, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what is going on here? Where do we live?
no doubt, dude.
That's amazing.
That's so
So
crazy.
what was the deciding factor for you to move to Florida?
Well, I had all these employees in Buffalo, so I was stuck there. I
Yeah.
hated the climate.
Oh,
I
it's the
didn't like there
worst
wasn't
weather. Yeah.
opportunity. People don't really fly planes. You don't have cars. You don't have a racetrack.
Nope.
You can only boat 3 months a year. So I looked at San Francisco. I looked at Los Angeles, looked at Dallas, DC, New York City, Miami, and West Palm. I picked West Palm because it's a small city with big city amenities. Everything's walking distance. You have 50 or 60 restaurants and bars, walking distance, walk to the ocean, walk to shopping, and you have an international airport 5 minutes away.
True.
Yeah.
And I explain to people navigation in South Florida is so simple because everything runs north to south. You go
Yep,
too far east, you hit the ocean. You go too far west, you hit the Everglades. So you get on 95, Federal, Dixie, A1A, or the Turnpike, and that's your life.
absolutely. It's a great place to live.
No doubt.
It's the conveniences with the airport
Agreed.
so close, with the ocean there, the entertainment.
Well,
So
then you're like you said,
it's quality of life.
yes, and where you are, you have like the big city amenities in West Palm. You want to go hour, 15 minutes south, you get Miami, which
And
has
you hop on the Bright Line train.
Yeah.
which is a
Exactly.
pleasure, an
It
absolute
really
pleasure.
is.
Yeah, that thing is gorgeous. And now you can go to Orlando too. The whole state's become smaller just in a matter of 2 years.
Yeah, and it'll be going to Tampa next.
Yeah, and they also just added an extension. You can get from Southern California now to Vegas. They're building a bright line to go through that part of the country.
I saw that one. It's going to
Wow.
be much faster too.
Yeah, we're taking some notes from what they're doing out in Japan and South Korea and China and all that.
I can't wait to see real high speed trains.
Like
If there's
how
any-
fast are we talking?
But what I don't understand is those high speed trains aren't hitting people the way they are here. Why is the Bright Line hitting so many people?
Are those people doing that intentionally or what's going on
They
there?
have to be. They have to be.
Right?
I mean,
It's funny
you
you say
can't be
that.
that stupid.
We were just at the stand-up comedian show and he was making a bunch of jokes about people getting hit by the train.
The one in Boca?
Yeah, wasn't that Jimmy Schubert who was making
Yeah,
those
Jimmy.
jokes?
Yeah, at the Sad Man. Yeah.
Mm.
So, And so something else I've been curious about and trying to learn more about, kind of new to me, but is what is it called? G-force, right? Or
Yes,
G-lock. There's a video of
sir.
you on YouTube going 300 miles per hour in a fighter jet, and you like not entirely passed out, but like you're not all there. What is that like?
Well, there's one where I entirely pass out. I mean, out. G-Lock, done. It has
Dude,
hundreds of millions of views.
So
gosh.
So
how does that necessarily happen? Like the dynamics of just too quick, your body just shuts down. And what happens when someone passes out? Like obviously they're still breathing, right?
yes. So what the feeling is like when you're on a roller coaster and you
Hmm.
initially go down,
Yes.
that's not the feeling. It's once you level out or once you turn, how you're pinned into the seat, that feeling of turning in a roller coaster where you're really pinned in, where you
Yeah.
could take the harness off and
Yeah. Kind of
you'd be pinned
jacked.
in and you wouldn't be able to move. So it's that times 10. So you have all these forces on your body. 1G is just the force of gravity. So we're in 1G right now.
Hmm.
We're in 2G, your body would be twice as heavy. So you'd have all that force to move. 3G would be three times.
That
Eight,
sounds pretty
eight,
frightening.
eight Gs would be eight times. So your hand would weigh eight times as much.
How
There's
do you
kind
get
of
how do you get out of that state?
So if you do G-lock, what happens is your brain is not getting enough blood because the forces are pushing the blood down. And you're running out of blood to the brain, and your lungs are also being crushed. So you're running out of oxygen.
Oh my God.
so
So
there's a
what you have to do,
there's a serious health concern if you've never done it before, even if you've done it before, it's very dangerous, huh?
well, if you're flying alone and you G-lock, you're dead.
Yeah.
So I was out for maybe 5 seconds. When I woke up, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know my name. Like I couldn't have ever flown an aircraft. Like, I had no idea. I had no idea I was in a plane even for probably 10 seconds.
Was the plane descending for that 5-10 seconds?
No, we're just in a turn, and my friend was flying it.
So what
Oh
So
my
I
God.
wasn't pilot in command.
and how often does that happen with your body? Like that someone G-locks on a plane and they die.
It's pretty rare, but it's happened to the Thunderbirds. It's happened during air shows. So you see it happen.
It's just
You, you,
random.
no, 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 it's not random. It's when you're going fast and getting into a sharp turn or making sharp corrections.
So you kind of need to know how to fly the plane to avoid it.
Well, you need to know how to deal with it. And most planes can't pull a lot of Gs. Most planes can only pull 2.5 Gs, whereas a fighter jet can do between 7 and 9 Gs.
And
So that's why you see it in the fighter jets.
how do you handle it when you say it? You got to know how to handle it.
What you have to do is you have to squeeze your legs and your core as hard as you possibly can. I mean, as hard as you can squeeze. Then every 3 to 4 seconds, you have to get a little gulp of air in. Just get a little bit of oxygen to the lungs. So your lungs are being crushed and you're losing the oxygen.
Oh,
So you're squeezing as hard as you can. Then every 3 seconds or so, gulping in some air and holding it.
And
are
you're
there
doing that
sim
as you're flying the plane.
Absolutely.
are there simulation machines that you could like stimulate that or
There's a couple. Most of them are military and one's a private contractor. So for the
uh,
last year, I actually did a G-force competition in the machine.
oh my God.
And it was Tito Ortiz, a UFC fighter, versus me to see who can go longer.
Wow.
Did
Uh,
you beat him?
So we did 9 Gs, and Tito was able to do 12 seconds, which is really impressive. Then he G-locked and passed out. So it was really impressive he did that. If you just Google Tito Ortiz G-force, you'll see it. So he kicked ass for being untrained, but I was able to do the full 30-second profile.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. That's got to be like for a lot of people, that's torturous.
Oh, it's the worst. It's one of the worst chairs to sit in. I tell everybody the only worse chair than the centrifuge machine is the electric chair.
And do you,
If you're
do
being
you,
killed,
oh Jesus. Do you the second it's done, do you feel fine or does it take a few moments for you to get back to being yourself?
Well, your heart's racing. So you start off at say 70
Uh,
beats per minute. Within 1 second, you're at 170.
within a
So,
second?
Yeah,
so do you wear
Oh
like
my.
a Whoop or Fitbit to track that when you're doing those tests?
I was in that case. Yeah,
So you just see the heart rate go low and it just skyrockets up.
exactly.
Like in a
So
matter of a second, it might go from like 80 to 170.
yeah.
That's
Wow, dude.
insane.
Yeah, that
So
is insane.
you kind of reminding me of like the David Goggins do hard things, do hard things. Do you put yourself in these situations like
All the
because
time on
just
purpose.
because yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say you got to do it because you don't want to, but you know it will benefit you in the future.
correct. So the one thing that I do 3 times a week that I recommend for everybody can do it. Cold plunging.
Yep. I mean,
The-
we've
the-
we've had a couple people on here talking about the not only the mental benefits, but even the physical benefits of cold plunging.
Absolutely. So it's horrific. It's horrible. One of the worst things I can think of ever doing, but we have to do hard things. Everything else is so easy after a cold plunge.
What do you set? What's your cold plunge set at?
I like to be in the mid 30s.
It's pretty cold.
So do you have
It's
one near your
horrible.
apartment there?
I don't, but the gym I go to has one.
Where do you go? The Lifetime in West Palm?
No, I go to Amped Fitness.
Oh, that's nice. Those are emerging all over the place down here.
Yeah, so
Those are really nice.
it's horrific. That's my next stop after here.
There you go.
Do you go in and out of cold sauna?
No, that makes it easier.
Do you sauna also though?
I do that, but not close to cold plunge time.
That was a cold plunge before or after your workout?
After, but you should wait 4 hours, a minimum 4 hours before you do it after the workout. So I train mornings, like cold plunge evenings.
Oh, so you're going to Amped just to cold plunge?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So what? Do you go in and out, or 3 minutes and you're done for the day?
No, I do 4 to 5 minutes straight.
For how many rounds?
One.
One round. Oh
Yeah.
man, fucking brutal. And
What's
do you have AirPods in, or are you just you and your thoughts?
Nope. I have my phone out with my timer,
you just stare
and
at it?
I get to the point where I can't move my hands at all.
Right up
It's
to your
time to get
neck,
up.
right at your throat.
I go right up to my throat, shoulders in, arms in.
That's B shit.
That's funny. Merrick,
No arms out.
I
Yeah.
remember specifically we ran a half marathon a year ago and we got back to our place and got the shower or the bath going to cold plunge. I might have lasted 50 seconds and after the half marathon, it felt like my lower body was burning because of the cold to running 13 miles to jumping in
I'm
the cold.
sure.
I mean, it
Well,
definitely helped afterwards, but it was brutal.
the cold plunge always feels like burning and being poked by needles everywhere, by thousands of needles.
Now here's a question. Does it get easier?
No,
Not
never,
one.
Really?
never.
That's
No, and it's fun to watch your heart rate. Your heart
If
rate is way up just walking up to the thing. So
you
you
know,
know how bad it's going to
and
be.
then it goes way down.
I haven't really watched when I'm in there. No, I would think it stays up.
Alex, your cold plunge thing surprises me that it doesn't get easier considering you're from Buffalo, New York, where it's
I hate the cold though.
statistically probably one of the coldest places in the United States.
I keep my condo between 73 and 74 degrees. I hate cold.
That's
How
so
often
funny.
do you go back to Buffalo?
I go back probably 3 or 4 times a year during the summer.
There you
Yeah,
go.
summer.
No,
How-
no winter.
No Bills games in January.
Hell no.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a good thing about being here. They're on every fucking bar has got the Bills on. Everyone loves the
That's
Bills
true.
in South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought, right? Now they're
Yeah.
doing so well.
It's amazing that generally speaking, a smaller city in the United States has such a following. They're everywhere.
I mean, people are serious about football in Buffalo.
Yes,
Oh,
they
yeah.
are.
People are depressed the next day when they lose.
They
There's
look
no
good,
denying
and they
that.
look good right now. Like they might
They
be the
really
best
do.
team in the NFL.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will.
I love to see them win the Super Bowl just for the city of Buffalo.
Would you go? Would you fly to New Orleans for that? Perhaps.
The Super Bowl? No,
Still, nah.
Are you a football fan?
not really. I'm more of a go hang out with my friends and watch the game.
You're a supporter of Buffalo.
I am. Like I went to the Buffalo Miami game.
Oh,
But
we
we
were
went
there
to the
too.
Yeah, we were there too.
I went to the Super Bowl when I was here in Miami.
Nice. So you're
Yeah.
Miami through, South Florida through and through.
Absolutely.
Alex, before we wrap up, given your extensive background in social media, I want to play a game called Bullish or Bearish. I'm going to give you
Oh,
a bunch of social media platforms, and you're going to tell me if you're bullish or bearish on these platforms in 2025.
Merrick, let's
okay.
define bullish and bearish for our listeners first.
Yeah, if you know, you know on this one.
All
Bullish or
right.
bearish. You got Google or ChatGPT. You can look it up.
All right.
YouTube,
Bull
Instagram.
in between.
Why?
More bull, I'd say.
Why question though originally?
It's getting so much harder to grow and get anywhere on it.
Interesting.
Threads,
Bear for sure.
Facebook,
Bear,
Yeah, me too.
X.
bull,
Yeah, totally. TikTok.
bear,
All right, last one. This one's interesting. LinkedIn.
bull.
I think
There's,
LinkedIn's interesting.
there's no competition.
That's what we were
That's
talking about the
true.
other day. It's such a like a lot
When
of
you
these platforms, LinkedIn rewards the consistency for a certain amount of time. Not that they all don't, but like you said, there's so much less being fed to the algorithm.
People are using it for different reasons too. People are using it for the resume to find opportunities. So people need it. It's not entertainment. That's the difference.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Alex, this was a great pleasure to have you on the show, my man. I know, like I said, this has been a long time in the making, and thrilled and honored to have you be a part of the everything but politics community. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we finally make it work, and I can't wait to see your continued success, guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.